Variety's 10 problematic films that need disclaimers and discussions before and after watching.
And they're now on Sky.
I'm
they're
not
now
sure.
There. But sorry, go on. No, they are.
In this list, Dirty Harry, Forrest Gump, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Me Before You, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which only came out last year.
Yeah.
And then Children's Hour, The Searchers. So they're from the 60s. Forrest Gump, 1994, Dirty Harry, 1971, Indiana Jones, 1984. I think that one was problematic because it showed Hindu people as being the ones that can take your heart out.
It's the circular firing squad that Obama was talking about. Now culture is going to be cleansed. And when people do this, there's a way, it's also competitive, right? There is a way of attaining status by doing this, by taking the scalp. You get to brag and say, well, look, I just aided the revolution. We are slightly closer to the social justice future because Indiana Jones has been censored or whatever.
Because head on a spike.
Exactly, head on a spike. And this taking things down becomes competitive sport. Everyone's looking at everyone else getting kudos and thinking, well, I need to do something. I found something. And so these campaigns will intensify until someone just says, well, look, I just don't agree that this is a problem.
Realistically,
if I'm the one
that's not going to happen.
It's not. Everyone's terrified.
Yeah, and rightly so. Like the silence is deafening stuff. So CrossFit, I don't know whether you've seen that the CrossFit CEO put his foot in it in a really, really huge way. I didn't. They hadn't decided to put out a message when every other company was during that period, that 5-day period. They didn't do that.
The black message with white writing. Yeah.
They didn't have one of those. And then Greg Glassman, the CEO, did a thing, tweeted. There was a little bit of nuance to it when you dug in deeper, but it was just a stupid tweet. And when you think of the current environment, it was as basically as stupid as you can get. And now he's resigned, and that has tumbled out. There's no way that wasn't going to happen. There's no way that wasn't going to happen. And from my side, I think he fucked up. See you later on, Greg. You're off, mate. But there has to be a line somewhere with what we do with culture and with what we allow in from history. People that fuck up right now, I'm like, look, mate, you're an adult, but you can't judge the situations of history by the standards of today. However,
you wouldn't, because it would be irrational to do so.
It's The Searchers, made in 1956.
Yeah,
should that be condemned for it? Okay, no, that shouldn't. That should be taken down. Okay, let's roll the clock forward. At what point does doing a thing which today is reprehensible but back then was acceptable become due recompense in the now? Because no one's going to the people that made The Searchers in 1956 and saying, we need your head on a spike, let's get rid of your blue tick on Twitter, let's do this.
They're probably dead.
Yeah, but okay, so at some point, where the Children's Hour in 1961 or Indiana Jones, it was the guy in Indiana Jones.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford's head's not on a spike.
Harrison Ford isn't really responsible. You'd think they'd be going after George Lucas for writing it, wouldn't you?
But my point is
they will.
There's a line somewhere, and I want to try and work out where that is, because once we have something definite, a guideline that you can work with, you can be like, okay, I can respect the boundary that has been set. I can ensure that there is a rule whereby we do not make people in this world feel uncomfortable. But for as long as there isn't a rule, you can pick and choose. That's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad. Joe Biden says in one sentence that it's racist for Trump to not let Chinese people in, and then 2 months later says that the lockdown started too late.
Yeah.
Multiple things being true at once is...
Yeah, I think that the desire to find consistent rules is in some ways foolish, because it comes... I'm not trying to be insulting or anything. I spent years struggling with that too, right? And so I was foolish to think...
Teach me, expedite my progress through this wilderness.
Once you realize that they're going for revolution, you realize, okay, well, revolutions are effectively wars. You know, you're talking strategy and tactics, disposition of the troops on the field, whatever the field of battle is. You know, it could be Magic the Gathering or something, you know, or Dungeons and Dragons, you know, or playing card games, or, you know, video games, or whatever. It could be Hollywood movies. Whatever the field of battle is, you've got people who are more powerful than others, and they make moves, and your side wins, your side loses. And once you realize that, and all of social justice requires power to be defined with it. What's racism? It's power plus privilege, right? That's power plus prejudice. Sorry, that's not the definition of racism we use, but that's the social justice. All of these words are defined contextually in a schema of power. And once you realize that there's no point trying to be morally accurate to what you've already said, or to your own principles, right? Because you're not trying to establish fairness, you're trying to win. You know, so if something benefits my side, in any direction. I mean, it's not at any cost. They do have limits to things that they'll do and they won't do, but those limits are way outside of the boundaries of what someone like you or me might find acceptable. You know, burning down small businesses, that's totally within these limits, you know, but, you know, I don't know, insulting a trans woman of color on Twitter, that's totally out of limits. That's not going to do it, you know. So they've just got very different standards. What was I going to say?
Harrison Ford.
No, the battlefield, right? Yeah. So this is why you see Joe Biden can say one thing when it's advantageous for his team, and then the complete contradictory position when it's advantageous for his team, and none of his team will call him up on this. It doesn't matter.
Mate, that blows my mind. The fact that you can have someone who can reverse their position, say a thing, and then within months say another thing. These people are supposed to be the leaders of public opinion, the pinnacle of how we deliver the will of the people to the upper echelons of the most powerful country on the planet. How on earth is that allowed to happen?
Because it's the great and good doing it. They're the ones with their fingers on the levers of power, aren't they?
Like, it should be the sort of thing that people scream from the rooftops. Like, these
That's
are
what we're doing here.
Elected public officials. But it's like, how is there not... How does this allow you to trust? And that's not me to say Trump's any better. You know, Trump says...
Trump's got a myriad of failings, but Trump is not a revolutionary. He doesn't want to overthrow the American Republic. He doesn't hate the founding fathers. He's not going to tear down any statues. He's not going to do any of... He's not going to defund the police. You know, he's not going to increase drug and crime rates. You know, things like Trump has got so many failures, but being in favor of the concept of the system is not one of them. You know, that he's at least on that, whereas the left hate the system. They hate what it is, how it's founded in their view. And so they're going to do so much more damage than Trump would ever even conceive of doing. Trump actually seems to care about fairness, as stupid as that sounds. When Charlottesville happened, and he was like, look, I'm not talking about the Nazis, even though CNN always cut that bit out, but on both sides of the argument, there are good people. That's a fairness issue. You know, if he wanted, he could have said, yeah, the Proud, or sorry, not the Proud Boys, the Nazis at Charlottesville, you know, the protesters did nothing wrong. Antifa did something wrong. If he wanted, it would look terrible. You know, a fair-minded person would be like, hang on a second, you know, they're both bad at this side, you know, and that, you know, it's not just one or the other. And so when the media, when CNN, when the Democrats say all evil lies in the opposition, you know that they're not playing in the ideal of establishing a fair playing field, or how to say, not just playing field, but just atmosphere, a society that's fair.